the voice of Alabama politics, with your host, Bill Britt. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
We're here at the Lee County Courthouse on day 10 of the Mike Hubbard criminal trial. I'm Bill Britt.
I'm Susan Britt.
Coming to you for the Alabama Political Reporter and the V. Susan, the big news of the day is that Mike Hubbard has taken the stand in his own defense. Desperate or what?
I think he's desperate. I think that's got to be, because, the whole Capitol press corps, you could hear him go, because nobody really thought, there was rumors that he was going to take the stand, but nobody really thought he would, but dang if he didn't.
We talked to one attorney who said this was a desperate move by a desperate man, and they're hoping that the same lightning will strike again like it did in the Barrymore trial. This is a very different case.
This is a very different case. Barrymore was mainly about just lying or perjuring yourself. This is about stealing. We're talking about, money laundering. We're talking, millions of dollars, and it's just a lot more than that. And also, I got to tell you, man, I've been preparing for a couple of years on this.
Yep, he has.
He's been waiting for this moment.
Ready for Hubbard. But let's back up and start with the first of the day. We started off the day with former Governor Bob Riley under cross by Bill Baxley. Baxley's tried to ask him about the ethics laws, to give his opinion on the ethics laws, and the judge had to call him down.
Judge had to call him. They called him down several times.
It appears that yesterday or at some point they had a motion to mention this type of information, and the judge said no, and Bill Baxley still tried to cheat and get it in. He also tried to get in testimony about
he could try to get in testimony about Seth Hammett,
yeah.
and that got shut down again.
He also tried to get something about an economic development deal that was wrong, that didn't apply. It was, the judge was clearly irritated. Matt Hart said they were going to call for sanctions if Baxley kept it up, and the judge was really just wanted him to shut it down.
He was losing his patience. I don't know how he's been as patient as he has with all of them in there, but I got to tell you, this is one patient judge.
He really is, but he was not happy today. After that, the prosecution rested their case, and
they didn't. They got one more.
Oh, that's right. We got one big witness.
We've got the big witness, Greg Fee.
Former FBI's forensic accountant, Greg Fee, now works for Luther Strange at the AG's office. He took the stand and showed how Hubbard had prospered to the tune of $2.3 million plus since taking over the ALGOP as chairman until 2012, right?
Right.
Susan?
The total investments between all I won't call them all investments, because half of them are contracts with clients, half of them are investments from these third parties, come to $2.3 million. Now, also interesting is while Hubbard was crying poor all this time, he and his wife were making right around $350,000 a year. Something that I found really interesting that I didn't see the prosecution point out that I really wish they had is that in the year 2012, when Hubbard gets all these contracts from APCI and all this, he gives himself an $80,000, $280 raise during that year from Auburn Network.
Now, he showed that this has been very prosperous for Hubbard, that Hubbard was able to keep his business going, where he gained equity in those businesses. He was able to keep his normal living salary of $350,000 or so between the two of them. And, we were talking to some folks afterwards and said, could you live on $350,000? And everybody's like, I can't imagine $350,000.
Heck, one of the employees at the courthouse here said, heck, I just look forward to my overtime check.
Yeah, exactly. Most folks in Alabama can't imagine $350,000 and still crying poor.
Of course, somebody here also said, I didn't know that we were supposed to know. What was the bank robber thing?
Yeah, didn't know we were supposed to care where the bank robber spent the money. Well, that came in when Bill Baxley on cross went at agent's fee saying, well, didn't the money get spent here? Didn't the money get spent there? And Agent Fee said, well, it's not about how he spent the money. It's the source. It's the source of the money.
So it's how he got it.
And Fee broke it down by charge and showed how much money was made by charge. And he showed that we shouldn't care about where the robber spends his money. It's how he got it.
Now you can rest the prosecution.
Now the prosecution rests. And And
after that, they had an acquittal hearing where McKnight got up and tried to get the judge to throw the case out on different counts for different reasons. And the judge patiently listened, and in the end, on all of them said, I believe these are all matters for the jury. I think that the prosecution has given sufficient evidence to let this go to the jury, so that's what we're going to do.
And they just let it slide through. So Baxley comes back and says that he filed a motion to call
Riley back in.
Bob Riley back in after the judge had said no.
He wanted to call Riley back in because he wanted Riley to dispute some of the things that Jim Sumner had said. Even though, as the prosecution pointed out, that Baxley had already talked to Riley about this. They pointed it out in the testimony where Bill Baxley kept saying over and over, well, we can't afford to have the dailies.
Right,
we can't afford. Although the prosecution offered to get them a copy, they still did not accept.
The judge did not rule on it. We think there's a separate hearing going to happen, but he did not seem inclined to let Bob Riley back on the stand.
He did not.
Next day, this is all out of earshot of the jury. The jury was dismissed during that process. Also, while the jury was dismissed, Baxley tried to get in testimony from Kitty Brown. Kitty Brown is an attorney with Mark White's firm, White Arnold Dowd. Kitty said she took some notes at a meeting they had with Jim Sumner, and they were trying to get that into testimony, but the judge just wasn't letting it in.
Well, she couldn't remember the date. If she didn't remember the date, they were trying to say that Jim Sumner had knowledge of APCI beforehand. And but I mean, as many times he let her go out of the courtroom and called her back to make absolutely sure she could not remember the date. If she can't remember the date, he can't enter it into testimony.
Jim Sumner had testified that Mike Hubbard did not call him on that issue until after he had voted on it, and that he said that Mike said he wanted to come visit him because Josh Blades may have done something wrong.
Yes, he did.
People forget that part.
Yeah, they do. He was trying to throw Josh under the bus instead of himself.
Right. Well, and so...
Speaking of himself.
Right. Hubbard took the stand. He seemed confident. He was, the normal Mike, like the guy at the mic during session. I mean, he came across pretty good.
Yeah, he did. Did you know that he got interested in the radio station when he was in the Cub Scouts? His mother she was the den mother, wasn't she?
Right.
And that's how he got interested in radio.
But I mean, it was really 50
minutes.
Very
rosy.
50 minutes of Mike talking about his humble beginnings and how he had worked hard and been prosperous, and that
he was just so diligent with it.
Well, I don't want to be too.
I'm sorry.
The one thing that was interesting is, his father's still living.
Yes.
And I've never seen his father at any event.
He's not been in this courtroom.
No, his father's never. I mean, he's older now. I mean, he's in his.
He probably can't at this point, I would imagine.
But at that point, when he was in his 70s, we heard he just never talks about his dad. But I thought it was unusual. It was 50 minutes, and then they tried to hustle through some of these counts. I didn't think the jury lost patience during the 50 minutes, did they?
I think they did. They're tired. They've heard this stuff to death. When Hubbard would crack a joke, they really didn't laugh. The only time they ever chuckled was really when he was talking about meeting Susan, or when he was going to take a contract that Susan was going to kill him over. Anything that had to do with Susan Hubbard, they'd kind of chuckle, but anything else just kind of went over like a lead balloon.
Not so much. Of course, when it's going to get interesting is not this rosy picture that Mike Hubbard is going to present. It's going to come when Matt Hart has him under cross. That big man will bring his howitzer to the courtroom.
So, yeah, he'll definitely bring the howitzer several rounds.
Hubbard's already said he owns a howitzer.
Well, I know. Well, that was Kevin Turner.
You know how big a howitzer is?
Yeah, well, Matt Hart's big enough he can fit it in his pocket.
Put a big howitzer right here. All right,
that's put the ammo on the other side.
Field artillery.
That's going to be interesting.
Tomorrow we start off again with Mike Hubbard taking the stand in day 11.
Now, it's not till 1:15.
Yeah, right.
Make your notes in your calendar,
Yeah,
not till 1:15.
1:15 because the judge has other issues before the court that have to be dealt with. So tomorrow at 1:15, trial will resume with Speaker Mike Hubbard taking the stand in his own defense. For the voice of Alabama politics and the V, I'm Bill Britt.
And I'm Susan Britt.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Come here for the details of what Mike Hubbard's got to say.
Thank you.